Marjorie Taylor Greene has had a rough go of it over the last couple of weeks, and oh boy, does that make me happy. Because not only was she shouted down at a town hall, but Donald Trump also called her and made sure she was not running for Senate, which is a big disappointment to me. But maybe the biggest disappointment to Marjorie Taylor Greene was how she was ripped to shreds in her own committee hearing by Congressman Greg Casar, in a takedown that had her absolutely furious, stewing and losing it, that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene has done a lot to try to distract from the fact that she is having such a bad go of it, but also to distract from Donald Trump's failure. So before we get into Greg Casar, I want to see what Marjorie Taylor Greene has been talking about most recently.
Honored to be here today in front of the American people as we debate the merits of the Gulf of America Act. This would rename the body of water formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. This is such an important thing to do for the American people. The American people deserve pride in their country, and they deserve pride in the waters that we own, that we protect with our military and our Coast Guard, and all of the businesses that prosper along these waters. But Democrats today are outraged. They're outraged because they love the cartels more than any other people in the world, more than the American people.
Really? The Gulf of America is going to bring back pride to our country? I think maybe getting rid of the current American president might do that. This is embarrassing. This is humiliating. And this is consistently what the administration touts as their biggest achievement, renaming a body of water to something that no one is going to call it. It's just weird, but as we always talk about, these things are simply distractions. Distractions from the failures of the Trump administration, distractions from their criminal activity, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's as well, which is exactly what Greg Casar called out in this takedown right here.
That more than 5 million Americans can lose their health care because of the Medicaid cuts being pushed by Republican members of Congress. So, of course, Republicans on the Government Efficiency Committee are holding an emergency hearing on semi-pro fencing. Not fences like the kind that goes around a building, but like the sport with the swords. And I've knocked on thousands of doors and talked to thousands of Republican, Independent, and Democratic voters in my career. And not a single time has someone flung open their door and said, "Thank God you're here, Congressman. I want to ask you about transgender people fencing." It's just never happened. I've never even met a fencer before. I've just seen it on The Parent Trap. I'm sure it's a great sport, but what the hell are we doing here? Seriously, we're here because Chairwoman Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks that if she picks on vulnerable people, like trans folks, she can avoid having a discussion about the allegations of insider trading against her. She thinks that she can distract from the fact that Trump and MAGA Republicans are raising your costs every single day, suppressing your wages every single day, stealing your taxpayer dollars every single day, and threatening your health care. That's the reason we're at this crazy hearing today. Here we are in a subcommittee supposedly about government efficiency, spending hours upon hours trashing trans people and talking about trans folks in sports. There's more members on this committee than there are trans people in all of college sports. Of the 500,000 student athletes in America, about 10 of them are trans. Not 10,000, 10. In Olympics, there are even fewer. So in my opinion, sports leagues will do a much better job than politicians up here on this committee coming up with fair and thoughtful ways of handling who does and who does not qualify for which sports. But I think that instead of picking on LGBT people, politicians in this country should be singularly focused on improving the economy for every single working American. That's my crazy idea. Ms. Goss-Graves, Republicans have called an emergency hearing on trans athletes in the sport of fencing today. Can you tell me How many college fencers are there total in the entire United States?
I think about 1,000.
Compare that to, do you know how many people rely on Medicaid in this country?
That's more like 80 million.
And Social Security?
That's more like 70 million.
So 80 million people rely on Medicaid, 70 million people on Social Security. We're talking about 1,000 college fencers, period. How many hearings do you think this committee has held on Elon Musk pushing Social Security to the brink of collapse?
Oh, my God.
I don't think any.
0 hearings. How many hearings have we had about the millions of Americans who could lose Medicaid because of the cuts Republicans are pushing today?
Well, 0.
That is correct. 0 hearings on these issues that impact us all. Republicans have called hearing after hearing obsessed with trans folks in sports, which of course only affects a tiny sliver of Americans, but no hearings on Medicaid, no hearings on Social Security, no hearings on raising wages and lowering costs. So if you're sitting at home watching, you need to know the goal of this hearing is for Republicans to distract you from their own lies, their own corruption, and their own failure. The goal of this hearing is to make sure that Fox News has something to talk about other than Elon Musk getting billions of dollars a year in government contracts while cutting services for you. The goal of this hearing is to make sure that Fox News has something else to talk about other than Chairwoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's alleged insider trading. It's a sick reality right now in American politics that right-wing Republican officials think that picking on trans people is how they'll earn more votes and raise more money. They pick on Americans that are already facing discrimination and violence, and they're making those challenges worse. They're trying to pull the oldest trick in the book. Next time you go vote, ask yourself if these second-rate schoolyard bullies are looking out for you or if they're scammers just like the man that holds their leash.
The gentleman's time has expired. It's important to point out that Democrat members today are not asking the 2 young ladies that are here representing their sports, and this is what the hearing is about today. I now recognize Chairman Comer from Kentucky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to start with a quick round of yes or no questions for each of our 4 witnesses.
We cannot forget that Marjorie Taylor Greene was breaking the law, conducting insider trading. This is something that should not go away. And she's trying to distract, unsurprisingly, by sending hate towards marginalized people. That is what Marjorie Taylor Greene is about, trying to shift your focus away from her breaking the law and helping the most well-off in our country by attacking those who are consistently marginalized by the current president. Is that not shameful? Well, we talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene did, thinking that the Gulf of America is going to make people proud. Do you know what might make people proud? If the wealthiest country in the world made sure that all people were treated with respect and dignity and lived lives in which they weren't worried about going bankrupt from medical debt, housing, feeding their family, but no, let's rename a body of water. And I'm not the only one who thinks it's ridiculous. So did Congressman Seth Magaziner, who called out Marjorie Taylor Greene right here.
Debating and wasting time on a ridiculous bill to rename the Gulf of Mexico when the American people want us to be focused on real issues that impact their lives. Prices are still too high. Donald Trump's tariffs are making it worse. The stock market is tanking. People are losing their savings. And in the midst of all of this, the Republican majority isn't focused on trying to solve the problems that everyday people care about. Instead, they are focused on stroking the ego of one man, Donald Trump, the man who they would make king. And so we are wasting time today, an entire legislative day where this is the only bill that's being debated, so that our Republican colleagues can get up and show their fealty to Donald Trump instead of the voters who elected us, who expect us to be focused on them. But there's another reason that Republicans are wasting time on this bill, which, by the way, 70% of the American people oppose. It's because they want to distract us from what else they are trying to do. They are working on a bill right now that would give trillions of dollars of tax cuts to billionaires like Elon Musk by cutting health care for working people. They don't want to talk about that. That part they only talk about behind closed doors, while they distract the media, the American people, and their own members with this nonsense bill about the Gulf of Mexico. Mr. Speaker, the American people are smarter than this. They are smarter than our Republican colleagues give them credit for. 70% of the American people reject this nonsense bill, and this Congress should as well. I yield back.
It is always going to be the case. If you put a bunch of clowns in charge, it's just bound to end up being a circus. And I wish that circus was just stupid rather than so stupid it manufactures a recession in our country. But that is the current state of things. These people aren't just bad at their jobs. They're bad to the point that they're inflicting pain on us, which is, I think, important to remember is largely the point. They do want us to think that government cannot work, that we should be distrustful of all institutions, because it helps build their narrative that we don't need any of these things, get rid of the programs, scrap it all, privatize Social Security, get rid of Medicaid. Let's just give all the tax cuts to billionaires. We don't need to spend money. It's not the case. These people are just too stupid to do government correctly. Not that they ever wanted to, but Stephanie Ruhle pointed that out when calling out Donald Trump's trade war right here.
Donald Trump is backed into a corner. His grand plans of tariffs aren't working, right? You're seeing day in and day out more business leaders, whether it's Warren Buffett or Jamie Dimon or Ken Griffin, on big global stages saying this is going to crush us economically. And then you've got congressmen, senators from every state saying to this White House, our small businesses are dying here. I'm not saying Donald Trump has changed what he thinks in his heart, but he's backed into a corner, and he needs to get off this crazy tariff train, and he knows it. So what did we see with England, right? Great Britain, you've got a PM there who's a close ally of Donald Trump, and they're saying, let's put on a show, let's create a theater, and let's say we've got a deal. And yes, there aren't any details to it. There is still a 10% tariff, which is why Jay Powell is not cutting rates, because 10% is more than triple what it was. So it's still going to be painful, especially for small business. But what's most important is the language around China. A week ago, China was like, we're not showing up unless you lower the tariffs, and we didn't. 48 hours ago, Donald Trump said, we're not going to lower the tariffs. Yesterday, he said, yeah, maybe. And today, things are softening even more. So I absolutely agree with you that Donald Trump is looking for some sort of exit here.
These are not smart people, and we have to dispel with any narrative that suggests that they are. We're certainly going to be doing so on this show, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you enjoyed this, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.